What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here, and today I just wanted to play with my meta. So yesterday we got update 2.5.0.2, and I had about 3 to 4 hours to play with it on stream, and I gotta say I'm pretty impressed with the state of the Crucible right now. It feels very different than how it felt just 48 hours ago. It's in fact a lot of fun and very primary focused. For 2.5 years, we've been asking for a primary meta, and it looks like we finally got it with one notable exception. So what I'm not seeing in the current meta is a lot of shotguns and a lot of sniper rifles. Yes, there are people running around with matadors, there are people running around with snipers, but because you lose your ammo when you die, you see a lot of people, you don't see a lot of people just primarying a shotgun or a sniper. You have to go out there, you have to fight with your primary, you have to get some special, and then you can use your special weapon, with the exception of course, the sidearms, which feel very good right now because there aren't a ton of shotguns, because there aren't a ton of other special weapons. A lot of people are running around with sidearms, and it feels good. It feels the way sidearms should feel, in my opinion, where they're a secondary weapon that are kind of used for, well, backup. You know, if you need a close range weapon, if you got a long range primary, then a sidearm is there for you. As far as primaries go, I gotta say I'm loving a lot of different primaries. They've opened up what's good for primaries. You're gonna see some palindrome gameplay here. The palindrome feels great to me. This is a vendor rolled palindrome, and it feels great. It feels accurate, it feels stable, it feels reliable. I feel like if I'm aiming properly, then I'm scoring hits. And that's something that after the year 2 or after the Taken King, I never really felt. I felt like it was up to some amount of RNG to get hand cannon hits. Yes, they were still probably the best primary in the game, aside from possibly a Clever Dragon or a Aggressive Malik, but they just never felt reliable. They didn't feel satisfying to use because of the ghost bullets and the bullet bloom. Now, as long as I'm pacing my shots and I'm firing accurately, I genuinely feel like I'm rewarded for good aim on a hand cannon. And because that vendor roll palindrome is so good, it just makes for a monster weapon right now. I went through a bunch of weapons yesterday. This is a PDX-45. This is basically the same gun as a Hawksaw. And this is a gun that I basically had dropped once the Clever Dragon came around. The Clever Dragon just killed faster. It was easier to use. So I just kind of dropped this weapon, even though it was one of my favorites in year 2. And yesterday I was having a lot of fun with it. I was winning primary gun battles with it. When I needed to get into close range battles, I could switch to my Trespasser or another sidearm. It just felt really good. It felt like fun. Now, I'm not the best PvP player out there. That's by a long shot, right? But it was fun yesterday to go out there, get some primary battles in, and not have to worry about just getting shotgun rushed by every player. It's been a long time that we've had the shotgun primary meta, right? And I know that a lot of people are upset to see it disappear. But I'm welcoming to this change. I'm welcoming to any change. It's been so long since we've got a major sandbox update in Destiny that any change feels good. And I think over time, we're definitely going to see a meta work itself out. We're going to find out, here are the top 3 primaries in Destiny right now. The top 5. Here's the best primary in Destiny right now. But the nice thing about getting a brand new meta is people are still working that stuff out. So it's a great time to use some of those less used weapons that you've been holding on into your vault. The PDX-45 for me is a great example of that. And here's another one. This is the Suros regime. And I really love the Suros regime with a Tempest backup. Obviously, you can't use two exotics in the same build, so I wasn't able to use the Trespasser, but I was having a lot of success with this setup. The Suros regime does kill very quickly. I think it's a 6-shot kill if you have focus fire equipped, and that made it pretty quick to kill, and it felt fairly accurate. it's a little weird. It's been so long since I've used an auto rifle in Destiny. I did use the Doctrine of Passing quite a bit in year 2, and I used, of course, the Suros regime in year 1. But besides those two time periods, it's been a while. It's been a long while since I've used an auto rifle. So getting used to aiming and kind of tracking an enemy's head with an auto rifle did take some getting used to. But once I started to dial it in a little bit, I found that I really enjoyed using the Suros. Now, one thing about the Suros is it is bugged right now, along with the Blade Dancer nerf. A lot of other things that regenerate health got nerfed as well. Accidentally by Bungie, and one of those things is the Suros regime. So I'm not exactly sure if they're going to fix the Suros regime's regen health perk, or when they're going to do it, if they're going to do it. But the gun is still good, but it doesn't quite live up to exotic status without that. So we'll have to see. I think another weapon in that archetype with focus fire would probably be just as good. And you wouldn't have to waste an exotic slot on it. In fact, it could be better because the Suros regime, in my opinion, doesn't quite have the stability that I'd really like to see out of it. I'm also using a Hopscotch Pilgrim, a gun that didn't get a buff. It didn't get a buff at all. But because other things like the Clever Dragon kind of got brought down, and because I'm not just constantly dealing with shotgun rushers, I felt like there was just a little more room to use a weapon like the Hopscotch. Now, admittedly, this Hopscotch is a very good roll. I think it's got perfect balance, counterbalance, and it's got full auto, which makes it a very good weapon and a very easy weapon to use. But one of the things in this patch, at least initially, is I just feel like there's more room for weapons that I haven't been using in a long time. So this Hopscotch, it's great at range. It's very accurate. I'm able to headshot people, and because it's full auto, I don't have to worry about pulsing that trigger so much. I can basically just leave the aiming reticle aimed at the character I want to kill and worry about my own foot movement, which is one of the nice advantages to full auto on a weapon. A lot of people think that full auto is a wasted perk. I don't really believe that, because what it allows you to do is basically open up your headspace. Instead of having to concentrate on your movement, your aim, and when you fire, with a full auto weapon, you can just hold down the trigger and focus on aiming and movement and not have to worry about pulsing the trigger, which, it just makes it that much easier. Sometimes it can get in the way. Sometimes, even with a full auto gun, I find myself pulsing that trigger. That might be out of habit too, but I really ended up enjoying this Hopscotch. Some of my best games of the day came from a gun that didn't even get buffed. Now, the Hopscotch used to belong to a very high impact archetype, but they brought it down to a more mid-impact archetype quite a while ago. I did also play a little bit with the Spare Change, which is a very high impact weapon. It's a weapon that did get buffed. The fire rate is faster on it now. But I don't know, for some reason it just wasn't clicking with me yesterday. More testing is probably necessary on my part. It should be capable of a 2-burst kill if all 3 shots from both bursts land to the head. But I wasn't having a whole lot of luck making that happen yesterday, so it wasn't the most efficient weapon for me. The Hopscotch and the PDX 45 were both more reliable weapons for me yesterday, but of course more testing is definitely necessary there. The Hawksaw archetype, the PDX 45 archetype feels really strong to me right now. High impact auto rifles feel very strong. I did play a little bit with the Doctrine of Passing, that really high rate of fire auto rifle archetype, and that gun was a beast in year 2, but it just didn't feel like it was getting the job done. Now, obviously off of one play session, and I will admit too, my aim yesterday was not on point. It had been, I think, 2 or 3 weeks since I'd spent any significant amount of time in the Crucible, and that ended up being a mistake for me. I really should have practiced a little bit in the Crucible before the patch came, because I spent probably the first hour of gameplay just trying to get my aim into a usable state. So, weapon testing was not exactly viable for me yesterday, but from what I did play with, from what I did use, there was a lot of available options, much more than I felt in the previous meta. Like I said, though, over time, I suspect that we will figure out what are the best weapons to be using in the Crucible right now. Whether that be high impact auto rifle, high impact pulse rifle, if the Clever Dragon remains dominant, or if the Hawksaw and the PDX 45 kind of make a comeback from the glory days of yesteryear. A lot of people were asking about Nerwin's Mercy. Pulse rifles are very good, and I'm really enjoying using them. High impact auto rifles are very good, and I'm enjoying using those as well. And hand cannons, I feel awesome right now. Literally, when you aim it, it goes where you aim, and that's how a hand cannon should feel. You definitely feel the range nerf on hand cannons. It's pretty significant, but I believe that's where Bungie wants them to be. So I'm really excited about the update that has just happened. This meta patch has been very fun in the opening hours. Obviously, everybody's using all sorts of stuff. The meta hasn't worked itself out yet. It'll take a week, maybe less, maybe more, before we really know what's the top of the meta. But I guarantee the Trespasser's going to be up there, because this thing absolutely is destroying people. And without the threat of having shotgun rushers everywhere, you really feel powerful when you pull out a Trespasser. It's a very, very strong weapon. I found this guy was in a couple of games with me, and he was obviously trying to work on getting hilt kills or sword kills in the Crucible. He must be working on the exotic quest, and he was after me with that hilt quite a number of times. It was kind of funny. So I'm really enjoying it. I'd love to know what you guys think. I know a lot of people are upset about the special weapon changes. I'm really excited about the special weapon changes because it's really enabled a primary meta, in my opinion, with the exception of sidearms, which don't really feel all that overpowered. They can be pretty good, but we'll have to see how that works itself out in the future. I definitely was wrecking people with the Trespasser yesterday, and that felt really good. But we'll definitely have to wait and see how this meta shakes out. But, right now, I'm just happy with change. It's been too long since we've had a significant change to the meta, and it feels really good to be using different weapons, to be experimenting again, instead of just using the same stuff all the time. Trials of Osiris is coming up on Friday. I'm really looking forward to checking out Trials of Osiris. I feel like the changes they've made to Trials and to the special weapon ammo is really going to change the landscape there. 90-second round timers, less special ammo being around. That's going to be very interesting to check out, so I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, I haven't made up my mind on how the changes are to Trials of Osiris, but to me, any change to Trials of Osiris is okay right now. Trials has been very samey for a very long time. It's become a very campy way to play, or it promotes a very campy way to play, and I'm hoping that is going to change with this update. We'll see how successful they are, but that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.